My name is Ranee Michael. I am a dispatcher for the city of North Richland Hills. I have been with North Richland Hills for about 5 years. My call actually came from a woman who had been taken to a women's shelter with her 2 small children. She had been a victim. The officers had taken her to the secure location where it was her husband at the time, had no contact with her, didn't know where she was, what she was doing. And she called me asking if an officer would be able to pick her up and take her back to her house. She was really concerned because the children had nothing. They had left with the clothes on their back. They didn't take any of their toys. She didn't even have diapers for the babies. She knew the risks of going back to the house, but her baby was crying because he didn't have a toy or a blanket. And it was very, very upsetting for her because she felt selfish leaving the situation to get herself safe, but taking everything away from her kids. The kids had never been abused. She told me, he had never acted violent towards them at all. It was only towards her. And so she felt really guilty taking them out of a situation where they were being taken care of and financially they had what they needed. She was the only one that was suffering. And I stayed on the phone with her for about 45 minutes. Trying to tell her that her life was more important than a blanket and that her kids were better off. Explaining to her, that from our side of it, we know the statistics. They try to leave 7 times. On average, a victim leaves 7 times before they're either successful or they die. And that's just how it is. And that with him making threats in front of officers, even to kill her if she came back, that to risk that just for her kids, it wasn't worth it. That the kids were better off. They don't want to see their mom go through that. They, even as young as they were, knew that wasn't right. And my biggest thing with it was that I told her, you want the best for your kids. You want your kids to grow up. I know what the older one was a little boy, and I said, you don't want him to think that it's okay to treat a woman like that. And that, I think, was finally kind of what got through to her. She knew in her mind that if she went back, he was probably going to kill her. And to ease her baby and to give him what he wanted, that comfort, she was willing to risk that. And that's one of those things that I've always taken with me, because as a mom, you want to do absolutely everything you can for your kids. And we put so much aside to, our time and our energies, and everything is our kids this and our kids that. I still think about that and what the victims must be feeling. It's easy, on this side of it to say, well, just leave, just get out before he kills you. But we don't see that side of it. We don't have the babies clinging to our shoulders and crying, and well, I miss my daddy. And, they don't know what the next step is. And so I can't imagine how hard it would be for a mom to pick up and take them out of everything that they knew, even if, they know what they're going through and how much it hurts, and they're willing to do it if they think it's the best for their kids. When I first started, I had a very indifferent attitude towards domestic violence, I guess. And as I started learning more about the job and handling more of it, I got more, I guess I softened up towards the victim side of it, because they're victims. And after taking the call from the mom, and it wasn't the rush that we usually get, she wasn't in any danger, her kids were safe, and I had that time to kind of connect with her as a caller. We don't get that a lot as a 911 dispatcher, because it's usually rushed. He's about to kill me, and we're getting her help as fast as we can. And getting to talk to her and hear her so desperate to do what was right for her kids, it really kind of changed me. And now when I get the domestic violence calls and the family disturbances, I have a completely different approach to it, because it's no longer, well, just stay away from them and wait for an officer to get there. It is more of a, okay, I don't know what you're going through, but let me try to help. I know that this is hard. I know, things. It's just a completely different approach to how they must be feeling at that time. And it goes both ways, because I have spoken to men who have been abused by their partners as well. And it's a complete psychological thing that they go through. And I never really looked at it that way. I just thought, well, why would you let anybody convince you that you're not good enough, or, And it really made me take a hard look at the other side of it, and people who aren't necessarily raised with parents who support them all the time and build up their self-esteem so that when they do fall in love and somebody abuses them, they don't realize that they do deserve better and that that's not normal, because that's not what their abuser tells them. It makes it easier to do my job knowing that at least she had reached out for help once. If they reached out for help once, then there's a chance she's going to reach out again. And ultimately that's the goal, is we want to help save their lives. I kind of preach to everybody now about the statistics, since we've done so much research on it and so much training, that this is what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if somebody I even know says, well, my husband hit me. Okay, well, this is how this starts. And did he emotionally abuse you before it turned physical? And I'll show him diagrams and pictures, and this is how many women in the state of Texas died last year, and this is the odds of it increasing. And I tell everybody, whether they want to hear it or not, I kind of feel like it's my job now to, even if you're not calling me for help, if you mention anything about the domestic side of it, I start just trying to basically convince everybody that you have an option. You can either die or you can leave. And whether that takes a month or 10 years from now, it's inevitable that, the abuse is not going to stop and they're not going to change. The true victims don't really let you know that they're a victim. They hide it. They're embarrassed by it. They're hurt by it. They don't want anybody to know that this is what's happening. For instance, I fell down the stairs and that's how I broke my foot, or, the excuses that they make, or the makeup that they try to cover it with. Hearing a mom cry on the phone because her baby didn't have her blanket really, really made me want to do whatever I could to keep her from going back to that. I could have left and gone and got her a blanket and taken it to wherever she was. At that point, I would have done almost anything I could to make sure that she didn't go back. And it's such a hard thing for a victim to actually be able to stand up and say that they know that they're a victim. Nobody wants that, especially when you're looking out for your kids, because you want to be strong for them. You don't want them to know that, mommy messed up or that anything is wrong. I think it is so important for them to know that their voice matters, especially because if their voice doesn't matter, nobody else's ever will. And there's such a stigma of, well, he hit you, he's fine, he takes care of you. Even nowadays, knowing all of the statistics that we know, people still think that that's okay. No woman should ever have to go through that. No child should ever see his mom go through that. And so I try on every one of my calls to make sure that they know that they're not alone. Even though they feel alone, he's not the only one there. Even if you don't have contact with your family anymore because they told you they weren't going to come around, knowing that he hurts you. And a lot of family members have to do that. They don't know any other option because it hurts them to see you being hurt when you can't leave. But even if you don't have that family, there's so many resources that can help. The women's shelter, it's not ideal. Nobody wants to stay there. You don't want to raise your kids there, but it's a safe place for you to regroup. They have people that can help. And the more victims, I think, that find the strength to leave and to be part of that program, and they can help lift other women up. And eventually, if enough women can get together and show the kids and everybody that, you deserve better than this. You're not just, a piece of flesh that he can boss around and mold into whatever he wants. You're a human, you have feelings, you have emotions, your thoughts matter. If they could do that and kind of band together, eventually these men wouldn't have anybody to abuse. And then the children aren't going to grow up thinking that it's okay. It's a learned attitude that they have. And if they see it from the time that they're a baby, that's what they're going to expect. But for the children who grew up and mom and dad don't talk, and dad hits mom when she talks back, or if the dishes aren't done quite right, then that's how they think that a household should be run. But it's going to take the victims finding the strength to speak out and to say that that's not all right and that I deserve better. And anything that I can do to help give them that voice, I have a passion for that. I really do.